G'day guys, it's Googs here for the Drunk Philosopher. How you going? Now, this New Year's Eve I'm planning a live stream on this channel with a couple of mates of mine. We'll see if they're available. I'm hoping they are, otherwise it'll just be me doing a bit of a live stream talking about 2019, the year that was. Simply, to be quite honest, I usually have a party to go to. It doesn't look like I've got a party to go to. I'm so lonely. Nah, I'm only kidding. You know, getting older and all that shit. But I'm going to do a live stream the year that was, and I'm hoping to see you there. If you want to, tell a couple of mates and, you know, get on the chat. Hey, if you want to join in, I'm not against that either. And we'll have a bit of fun here on the channel. Now, that's out of the way. People say that history never repeats. Well, some people do. Crowded House certainly did. Or was that Split Ends? That's right, it was before Crowded House formed. It was Split Ends. Same guys, different band. Now, that's not true. They say history never repeats. Of course it does. History always repeats. I remember, for example, in the fashion industry, in the 90s, all of a sudden there was all this tie-dye coming back. And everybody was wearing jeans and wearing those sort of farmers' shirts and things like that. You know, it was fashionable to wear boots all the time. You know, all these sort of influences from past times sort of reconfigured a little bit and released as the latest new thing. Music goes around in cycles too. For a while there in the 2000s, last decade, there was a big resurgence in folk music. In fact, there was a hell of a lot of folk music going on. There was also a resurgence in country music. There was a resurgence in all of these sort of things in the popular mediums, right? History repeats. One thing that history is always repeating is just when life seems to be going really well, the doomsdays come out, right? The 1920s was a time of, all over the world, was a time of great wealth. Great wealth, right up until the late 20s, of course, that's when you start getting the Great Depression. But the roaring 20s, right? Massive growth, lots of jobs, lots of projects, lots of things going on. Music was at an all-time high, big bands, jazz, swing, all that sort of shit. It was huge. Everybody had a nightlife, everybody had a go. It was great. And because there was like all this overindulgences and things like this in the more fun pastimes of life, let's say, there was a lot of doomsday cults starting, Christian doomsday cults started at the time. And people might not like hearing this, but I'm going to put in Jehovah's Witnesses, who are definitely a doomsday cult, part of the Christian faith. And, World War I was the beginning, and the end is nigh. People have got too much time, too much money. They're starting to go off and have fun little sexual adventures. And those of you who think that the 1960s was the first sexual revolution, you're absolutely out of your mind. 1920s, man, that was massive. People were fucking in the streets. That might be a bit hyperbolic, but man, women got the votes. There was a lot more empowerment going on. People were having a good time, all right? And these moralists came out. In this case, it was Christian moralists. Came out, oh, the end is nigh. This sinful countries, we shall be snowed under, and the good Lord will take us. And they quoted Revelations and Daniel all the time. And you go look it up. Look up the doomsday cults of the 1920s. And the moralists came out and said, everybody's having too good a time. Things are going too good. Everyone's having too much fun. Now, of course, the cycle changed, ended up in a big depression worldwide, late 20s through the 1930s. And, of course, then the doomsday cults went, oh, see, we told you. This is the wages of sin. This is the wages of sin. And maybe it was, who knows? I don't think it certainly was a God figure that brought them the wages of sin, but maybe they had far too much fun far too quickly, and who knows? I'm not an expert in economics, so I'm sure if you know quite a bit about economics, you can say, oh, listen here, dickhead, and I'll go, oh, cool, I'll read that and learn. So anyway, The same's happening now. You see, in the last 2 or 3 decades, here in the West, Australia, England, US, all over the West, we've done really well. And I mean really well. We've become exceptionally altruistic to the poorest states in the world, poorer countries, and our own poor. We've got really great technology. We're getting better technology. We've recognised that there was trouble with the environment. So over the last 30 years, as we came with the technology, we've moved forward. Like there's wind farms all over the place and solar panel farms all over the place, okay? People are coming up with electric cars, hybrid cars, and people are slowly moving away from the old fossil fuel paradigm. It's not happening quickly, but it is happening. And whether or not you think it's going to save the environment, it's neither here nor there. If I've got an engine that is going to cost me less because it's far more efficient and my hip pocket likes it, hey, I'm in, irrespective of your greenhouse gas argument. So these are good things. And racism is down. Murders are down. Rape is down across the board. We're allowing people to come in from other nations as refugees or whatever it is to live here. Okay? That's how well we're doing, is that people from all over the rest of the world, and the rest of the civilized world, because they are civilized people, of course, they're coming in and saying, we want what you've got, because they know that what we've got right now in the West is the best we've ever had it. Mankind has never had a time so good. And I mean that. From every metric you can look at, we've got homeless, but there's a hell of a lot less of them than there's ever been. Sure, we've got poor people, but even the poor people still get alms from the taxes given by the people. Then the government grabs them and puts them into welfare. You may not think it's enough, but it's better than, dying of starvation in a ditch. There's this state housing, there's all these other things, right, that are really good. Education is relatively cheap until you hit high school. Government has to do a balancing act, and I don't care which side of the ledger you're on, Labor or Liberal or, right or left. They still have to balance the budget, and they have to make some pretty hard decisions sometimes. In Australia, you've got the universal medical system. Cool. Medicare. We are doing exceptionally well, and that's why everybody from everywhere else wants to come here. They want to go to America, they want to go to England, the UK, New Zealand, because they know we are kicking ass. And once again, we're being altruistic. How much of a percentage, I can't remember how much of a percentage of Australia's budget every year goes towards other nations who aren't as well off as we are. Well, that's altruism. People say, well, it's not enough. Some people say it's too much. Irrespective of that argument, that money is altruism. Saying, hey, we want to help these poor bastards out in other places. Our Army, Navy and Air Force in Australia, it was 20 odd years ago when we didn't threaten the Indonesian government. We basically said, you better let East Timor go. And they let East Timor go, and our armies went in and essentially rebuilt East Timor to help those people out, free of charge. This is the thing. And then we did a trade deal with them for some of their oil. That's very altruistic. It's like, no, trade with us, man. We've got the money and we'll help you out. We'll look after you. Sort of like what America did with NATO in Europe in the late 1940s and early 50s. So we're altruistic. We try to help other people out because we have got more than enough for ourselves, right? We've got all this new technology that will and has and will continue to help other people around the world. This is an amazing thing. But here come the moralists. You see, everybody's having a good time. But the moralists have to pick out the speck in everybody's eye, or rather than seeing the log in their own. So they'll find one person out of say there's 700 people who've commented on a particular article. They'll find the one person who said something that was racist. And they say, oh, look how much racism there is, even though there's one person out of maybe 700. Now, 1 in 700 sounds like a big deal, But hell, compared to what it would have been 40, 50 years ago, 1 in 700 is, we've done quite well to get it to 1 in 700. Now, am I saying it's perfect? Am I saying we need to do more? Of course. Bigotry is not a good thing. And anyone who thinks bigotry is a good thing, well, you've probably got to log in your own eye. But these moralists come out and they get the specs. They go to America and say, this year, 112 people have died through school-related gun deaths, and there was 6 shooters. Now, I'm just making that up, by the way. I don't have those stats on me. But let's just say that's the truth. 6 shooters, 100-odd people. Now, you've got a country of 330-odd million people, and you've got 6 school shooters. Now, is that good? No. But 6 out of 330 million people go schizo to the point where they're willing to shoot up a school. That's not bad considering what we humans can be capable of, which means your society is actually running really well if it's only 6 shooters. But these moralists have to come out, oh, it's terrible. We don't like it. So therefore, it turns out that when we point out racism, because this is the way it usually goes, because of the historical relevance, of course, if a white person is racist, it's all over the front page of the news. But if a black person is racist, or a Chinese person is racist, or whatever it is, right, that doesn't even get noticed. There's no Twitter hashtag, don't be a racist pig, right? Because they're not white, right? This is now where these moralists are hiding. They're hiding in the fact that because of the historical relevance to white people used to be very racist, and of course apartheid and things like this. Yes, definitely. In the past, that is exceptionally true. Slavery, yeah, even though white people, it wasn't an exclusive white culture or white person thing to do slavery. Just ask the ancient Egyptians if you really want to go to the history side of things, or any other civilization, mind you. And I've got to make a video on slavery at some point. So that's where they see it's white people because of the historical relevance. Mind you, if a 17-year-old German turns around to a Jewish person and says, I don't like Jews, are we suddenly going to suspect that young German person of being the reincarnation of Hitler and take them before the Hague? No, we're going to tell them to shut the fuck up and stop being an idiot. But apparently history proves it's like, well, people change, cultures change. We've changed a hell of a lot. Is it perfect? No, it'll never be perfect. On any side, humans will still be humans, and you're always going to get assholes. And these moralists come out, whoa, it has to be perfect. It's almost like, I almost feel like saying to these people, like the Jesus line, ye who is without sin can cast the first stone, or in this case, the first tweet. That's the other thing, Twitter. What's with Twitter? Twitter is ridiculous. All the media organisations are looking at Twitter, but they're looking for that 1 in 700 or whatever that, once again, I'll pull that stat out of the sky, but they're looking for that one tweet, that one misogynist, that one white racist, that one whatever it is that they're looking for to give themselves confirmation bias, ignoring the hundreds of other responses and the hundreds of responses to that person who said those things to say, shut the fuck up, you're an idiot. They ignore that. It's wild. So these people are moralists. They're doomsdayers. Oh, we're so terrible, it's all over, we're going to die. Then you get the environmentalists. Same bloody thing. Oh, you're a terrible, immoral person. It's like, well, what do you mean I'm a terrible, immoral person? Do you think I want turtles and shit to die in the ocean? No. Do you think I want to have lots of methane and carbon dioxide in the atmosphere? No. I think it's probably a bad idea. Do I think we need better sources of energy? Yes, but not just because of the climate change thing, but because it helps my hip pocket and it advances our technology, and we're all going to be, as a species, better off with a more efficient form of energy. What's the problem? Oh, no, you're a climate denier. It's like the vegans and people. Oh, it's ridiculous. These new moralists, these new doomsday moralists. But unlike the Christian doomsday moralists, where you could just say, oh, well, I don't believe in Jesus, or you can point out a bit in the Bible that says, well, you're wrong. These days, And they did, obviously, if they're standing on street corners going, rah, 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 it doesn't make an impact, as much of an impact as what you can make on the internet, especially if you've got a shit ton of followers. It's ridiculous. And now the right-wing Christians have started up with the whole pornography thing again. Well, it's moral versus moral versus moral. And you sit there going, just leave us alone, please, man. Just fuck off. Go away. Media, why are you following Twitter? Who cares what one person out of 700 comments or 3,000 comments says? Yeah. But apparently it's the end times. It's doomsday. We're all going to die. Well, even if all the ice melts off Antarctica and all the ice melts in the North Pole, mankind has the kind of uncanny knack of being able to survive it. What form that takes, I don't know, but no, this whole thing is just absolutely ridiculous. So here's me, hopeful that now the worm has turned and the silent majority have started to speak. In Australia, they've spoken. In England, UK, they've spoken with the last election. And maybe in 2020, America will speak against this moralist crap, doomsday cultish sort of ideal. I'm hoping. So, I think it'll be the year of the doomsday cultists trying their damnedest to convince everybody that we're all fucked and we're all horrible people. Okay, I think it's really going to be on this decade. And hopefully for the rest of us silent majority, we're just going to go, sorry, dude, I'm going to get in my car on a Monday morning, fill that sucker up at the petrol station full of diesel, in my case, and then I'm going to work to use petroleum-based and plastic-based products to make your walls look colourful as a painter. Anyway, I'm Nathan Cooks-Fletcher. This is my drunk philosophy, and I will hopefully catch you on the 31st of December. Remember, it's Western Australian time. 31st of December, it'll either be me or me and a couple of mates. If you want to join in, just inbox me. And we'll have some fun to kick off the end of the year. And the decade. All right. Be good.